G'day everybody, my name is Elliot Waters and you're listening to the Dysregulated Podcast. As always, thank you for tuning in. Alright, here we go, my therapy reflections. I've just left therapy, I've driven straight home and now I'm sitting in front of the computer. So this is going to be as unfiltered and as raw as it can be. So, I don't know, this therapy session today, my head was all over the shop and I got a funny feeling this episode might be the same. So try and hold on if you can. But there's a lot of things flying through my head at the moment, trying to wrap my head around what's just occurred. So nothing bad, of course. It was just, monumental, significant, which is good. That's what you want in therapy. But there's a lot of inputs. There's a lot of cognitive thoughts, as we'll go into in a minute, that are really driving some of my anxiety at the moment. And I need to get it under control. So the first thing I need to do is get back to therapy. This is the first session I've had in about 3 weeks. Partly because of financial difficulties. So if anyone's got some money and wants to donate to the show, please, I need a new microphone, that'd be great. But yeah, therapy's expensive and there's been a few weeks where I've been a little bit lean. And also my anxiety has stopped me from going too. It's just, I've just been, well, you guys know, because I've been saying it on here recently, I've been petrified, scared of living, and going to therapy is something that's very scary, I think, anyway. Like, don't get me wrong, like it shouldn't be scary, but I think it is scary for a lot of people, and it certainly is for me, unfortunately. So today was, and I said this at the start, I said it felt a little bit like it was my first session again. It's only been 3 weeks since my last one, but that's how quickly my confidence sort of can crash. It's been 3 weeks and it feels like I'm back to square one again, which I'm not, but that's what it sort of felt like walking in. It was that same sort of nervousness, like, oh, what do I do? Where do I go? Who do I talk to? Do I belong here? All that sort of stuff. It's like, hello, we've been going here for months now. It's all good. Just get in there and open up. I did. So there were two sort of options. She said hello, and how I've been, and I said about the anxiety, and I've said how, there's been a lot of still that sleeping instead of taking on the world. I've been sleeping, totally overwhelmed. I've missed engagements like the TAFE Black Dog fundraiser, which I'm still I'm so angry about that. But anyway, because as you may remember, in therapy lately, we've been looking at trying to get me a new job. And basically I was given the option today because I came in all guns blazing about this whole general anxiety sort of thing I've got going on. Either look at the anxiety, the feeling of anxiety, we can work on that, or the job thing. I said, you know what? I think the feeling of anxiety is going to be quite intrinsically linked with my inability to have confidence to get a new job, and then everything else that flows on from there. I think we need to go to the core root of the problem, which is this feeling of being overwhelmed, very overwhelmed. So, because this week, just on a little side note about the whole sleeping anxiety thing, this week I've been on annual leave. So basically, it's an extended weekend, and we know what I usually do on my days off, which is sleep, because, I don't know, I must finish work and I come to this conclusion that, oh no, look at all this stuff I've been neglecting all week because I've been full-time at work. How could I? Silly me, but there's all these things I've got to do. I've only got 2 days to do it until I'm back at work. Oh my God, too overwhelming. I'm just going to sleep and pass out. I think that's what's going on. It's more and more I'm starting to think that it's not medication based. It is this, when I'm at work, I'm focusing on work and I'm focused on being on the forklift and putting all the timber away, doing all that sort of stuff. But when the work's not there, that particular work, then all the other work sort of springs up. And it's like, holy dooly, I'm doing so many things. What do I do first? This is unbearable. Because it's not just like, oh, gee, there's a lot of things I need to get done. The problem is, this is why it's a disorder, generalized anxiety disorder. One of the core sort of feelings that's produced is that I don't have the ability or the tools at my disposal. I'm not empowered to be able to get these things done. That's the problem. It's not that there's a lot of things on my plate. That's all right, I don't mind that. I can spread myself thin when I'm really locked in and still get some really great results across the board. But it's this feeling of inadequacy that I don't have the tools and that I don't have the ability to be able to tick these things off, that's what's overwhelming. It's like there's 5, say, big tasks here I've got to do. And man, my capacity has dwindled. I can only do 1. That leaves 4 unattended to. Oh my God, let's just hide under the blanket. So I think that's the thinking behind it. And today's therapy session sort of made that a little bit clearer as well. But it's interesting because this week's been annual leave, so it's been like an extended weekend. And the question I'm sure you guys are begging to ask, I can hear you yelling it out now, is have I slept through this first 4-5 days of annual leave? And the answer is no. But I've been very, very close. Like I've been in bed at like midday and I know I should be getting up, should have my medication, should brush my teeth, should eat something, should go to the gym, should go running, and then often I've rolled over and been like, nah. But then the guilt of being in bed knowing it's annual leave, it's like, nah, we've got to get up. But I'll tell you, it's been hard. It's been really hard and I felt really, at times, really disconnected. I'm brushing my teeth, trying to be mindful and, all that sort of stuff that they recommend, and eating breakfast and trying to focus on the actual process of eating just to really ground myself in the moment. But I've found it very, very difficult. I've been very disconnected because I'm so overwhelmed in my reality. I'm trying to fly off to somewhere else. And often that's sleepy time, but not this time. So that hasn't happened this week, which is great, but it almost has, which makes me think again, this is more evidence that says that it's this overwhelmed anxiety response. It's not, I need a good sleep on the weekend because I don't get much sleep during the week. Like that might be true, but not 3 days worth. It's the overwhelming, the weight of the world that's pushing me down, pinning me down under the covers. So I think that's it. Anyway, moving on, because that isn't really what today's therapy session was necessarily about. Sorry, I just bumped the table then. I hope that doesn't come out too harshly in the recording. But yes, so we decided to focus on the feeling of anxiety, how it feels for me, what it sort of produces, but feelings, emotions, difficult. I didn't realize this until recently, and thank goodness for therapy for showing me, and it certainly was true today. A lot of my problems, let's stick with the anxiety, forget about the rest. A lot of my anxiety, or most of it, it's all right brain stuff. Now, I'm sure you've listened to my episodes, left brain versus right brain. I highly, highly recommend you listen to that episode if you're interested in this sort of stuff, because it's a banger. But right brain is very feeling and emotional, and left brain is very analytical and logical. So what's going on is, I think, or we think, is that my anxiety is coming from the right brain. It's this emotion, which makes sense, BPD and ADHD, like there's a lot of emotional dysregulation in my world. And everything I do is driven by emotion. Even my autism, there's so much emotion that goes in behind a lot of the fixations that I have. So emotion's always been a huge thing for me, and we think that's where the anxiety is coming from. Again, it's coming from the right brain, and there's no real logical basis to it, but that doesn't matter because it floods in anyway. And the thing is, I think very cognitively. So I'll be in therapy and I'll be saying, this is the reason why I think this is happening, this, and this. If I try this, I reckon this will produce this outcome, blah, 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 blah. And essentially what I've been told, and this is the second therapist now, my old therapist said the same thing, that I over-intellectualize the problem and I don't actually attack the feeling. So I'm trying to think my way around the problem when this isn't a thinking problem. This is an emotional, just flooding event. So, left brain stuff, the logical, analytical stuff isn't going to work because the anxiety is not coming from the left brain. This is a right brain phenomena. And that's why the therapies that I'm doing, EMDR and internal family systems therapy, which I will do some general overviews of both soon, I promise. But those two therapies are very right brain, they're very, how I talk about the different parts that are within and how they talk to me and all this sort of stuff, inner child work, that's, let's be honest, not particularly logical or analytical. That is right brain stuff. That's imagination, feelings and emotions. And that's the therapies that I'm using that I'm using at the moment, because that's where we think the anxieties come from. And I think it's 100% bang on. But in therapy, when I'm talking and I'm describing things, I'm talking left brain. I'm yapping left brain, logical, analytical, and I ain't even touching the surface. So even when we're in the middle in the midst of these therapies, IFS and EMDR, I'm still over intellectualizing it and not sort of letting me just follow the feelings, follow the emotions, see where they lead. That's what I need to do. So I've been thinking too cognitively about these things because I don't know, I guess, I guess the reason is because, I'm trying to come up with the answer, and I don't know, I always thought you had to sort of think with your mind to come up with an answer, but it's actually not so much thinking that I need to be doing, it's more feeling and experiencing and sitting with. So there you go. Who would have thought? What's interesting though is, and that's why, I was going to finish on this point, that's why therapies like CBT, right? CBT, Cognitive Behavioural Therapy, great therapy for a lot of people, but it's never done much for me because it is left brain focused. It looks at why you're anxious and it said, well, that's illogical because, logic would state that this is actually what will probably happen. And, you should confront your fears because they're illogical, blah, 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 blah. But it doesn't matter. CBT doesn't even touch the surface when it comes to my anxiety or depression or any of my other disorders. It's all right brain stuff. It's emotional and you got to fight fire with fire. And that's what internal family systems and EMDR is all about. So very, very, metaphorical, very imaginative, like I said. IFS, I've got these parts within me talking to each other. That's not logical. That's not CBT. But what it is what I need to be doing to find out what's going on and rectify it. So today, it got very abstract, and we may remember I've got some parts to myself, some sub-personalities. This is internal family systems therapy here. So there's the loose cannon, the 16-year-old. There is the workaholic that believes that we're failing at life. We just got to work harder to get back on top, even though I don't think we're doing it in the smartest way. And then, of course, there's the inner critic as well. So they're sitting around the dinner table, but a new guest sat down at the dinner table today. And it wasn't the inner child. The inner child is still hiding somewhere because we're not at that point yet to bring the inner child in. But what it was is this cognitive overthinker. So there's a part within that is driving this left brain cognitive approach. And the reason, just like the other parts, the reason it's doing it is to protect me. This is an elaborate plan to protect me. So it feels like there's this train. Okay, this ties in my autism a little bit. I've got to do this right. So let me just do this little intro first, then I'll get to the trains. Yeah, we're talking trains. This is how good it's getting. It's brilliant. So the cognitive overthinker. So the cognitive overthinker does not take a rest. When I say I'm always thinking like the hamster on the wheel, just going, a lot of that is the cognitive overthinker. So it doesn't usually take a rest, and it's fueled by and creates its own fire from my generalized anxiety disorder and social anxiety disorder in particular. Those two components, the anxiety sort of stuff. And then OCD, the other sort of third anxiety triplet that I've got. The cognitive overthinker is very much aligned with OCD. So really, in some ways, the cognitive overthinker probably is my obsessive compulsive disorder. This is just another way to frame it and look at it. So there you go. Because in therapy, we don't talk too much about disorders themselves. It's more, the behaviors, the thoughts, and the feelings. It's not about the labels. So in a lot of ways, now I'm thinking, I didn't think this in therapy. I'm only coming to this conclusion now, but the cognitive overthinker probably is my obsessive compulsive disorder. So there you go. So yes, but so what it's trying to do, it's trying to protect me from potential harm. So the cognitive overthinker says, right, the world is so dangerous. There's danger lurking everywhere, and we've got to be on the lookout. And that includes even in social situations, just talking to people, I'm constantly thinking, hang on, did they just laugh at my joke? Were they laughing at me? Or, so-and-so wrote back, but it seemed a bit abrupt. Does that mean they're off me? They're angry? They hate me? Oh my God, what's going on? The cognitive overthinker really likes to step in those moments and come up with all the potential possibilities, focusing on the negative, because it's trying to protect me from danger. So it's looking at all the potential negatives and saying, Elliot, this is what we've got to keep an eye out for. Quick, keep an eye out, watch out. I don't know if so-and-so liked what you said just then. You better be careful. Step tread lightly, that's it. And that's what the cognitive overthinker is doing. A lot of these protective measures, but this one in particular, a lot of it's about not having blind spots. So I'm really scared, and I'm scared. As I sit here right now, I'm really scared that something's going to happen and I'm not going to see it coming, and it's going to absolutely floor me, absolutely belt me down. I never saw it coming. It hurts so much. Unbelievable. I've got to dwell now for the rest of my life how I never picked up on the signs that this imminent danger was coming forward. And in the past, I've sort of conceptualized that as being cheated on. So there's the BPD sort of influence. So a lot of the time when I think about that potential scenario, it's me being cheated on for a very long time. I never saw it happening, and then I eventually found out and it absolutely crushed everything, and I never could recover. That's how often I sort of view it. But it's not just about relationships. It can be about anything. I think today I was using the example of, because, work and employment is still a big thing on my mind at the moment. If I get a new job and I don't see, because of the blind spot, all these signs that are saying that the people aren't happy with my performance and they're going to give me the boot during my probationary period, that's the example that I was coming up with today. So, it jumps around and uses different sort of, not metaphors, because this is real sort of, these are real potential outcomes, but uses a lot of negative potential outcomes that maybe don't have that much potential, though. There's not that much of a chance of it happening, but the cognitive overthinker just likes to show me, look, this is what could happen. We've got to be on our toes, man. All right, we've got to keep alert, got to keep looking around. There's danger, and we've got to see it coming so we can sidestep it. So yes, the cognitive overthinker. Once again, this is another part that I cannot be angry at, because these parts, all they're trying to do is protect me. They just need to back off a little bit and trust me, the self, Elliot, the 34-year-old. I can do this. I know a good way forward. But we've got to get this anxiety out of the way. And the cognitive overthinker is forcing all this anxiety onto me, because the anxiety is what makes me alert and looking out for danger. It's not when I'm calm. If you're really calm and content and at ease, you're not looking for danger. If you're in fight, flight, or freeze mode, you're right on the edge of your seat, on your toes, looking for the next thing that could be coming. And that's the feeling that this cognitive overthinker likes to evoke within me, because it knows that when it does, and it does it by telling me all the potential bad outcomes, it knows that, when I'm thinking about it seriously, I'm on my toes looking out. But the thing is, who says there's danger coming? Who actually knows that there's danger coming? I was asked that question by my therapist. Do you know that there's danger coming? And I sort of ummed and ahed, bad things happen in life and all this, But there's no actual, we sort of drifted towards logic a little bit, but there's no real signs that anything's happening. And the thing is, the cognitive overthinker's never really uncovered any signs of things happening either. It hasn't really uncovered these grand plans that life has to screw me up. So, a lot of it's illogical, but that's because it's coming from the feeling side. It's just feeling petrified, scared, and it's like, holy dooly, Elliot, I've got to protect you, man. I've got to protect you. So look, just think about this, and this, because this could happen, man. I know I'm giving you, this is what it says to me. I know I'm giving you all this anxiety and it's really difficult, but trust me on this one. You need the wave of anxiety, because you got to be prepared, because I'm telling you, something's coming. Something is coming. But like I said, I don't actually know that something's coming. I don't really know what that something is, but it could be many things. Maybe it is someone cheating on me, but I'm not in a relationship. So that one I don't have to worry about. So the cognitive overthinker said, and again, this is abstract, but he said, it's a he said during, one thing quickly I'll say before I say what he said. I was asked how old this part is. So the loose cannon is a 16-year-old, the workaholic's like a 60-year-old me. But the age of this particular part was, I don't know, it sort of drifted from my current age to my early 20s to around 16, and there were different but I settled on around my current age, and I think that's a pretty right way to go about it. The thing is, this part has been with me for so long. It's been with me through the problems of 16, that terrible year. It's been with me through the problems of my early 20s and mid-20s. So, it sort of it covers a lot of ground, and it took me a bit to be sort of centered on this part and be like, right, are you a 16-year-old or are you with me as a 34-year-old? And in the end, I'm pretty sure this part is around my age. But like I said, it's seen some stuff, and that's what motivates it as well. Because, there have been some things that have not gone very well, and it's like, hey, we can't have this happen again. We know what happened last time, Elliot. You broke down or went to hospital or whatever. I cannot allow you to go through that again. So that's why I'm overanalyzing everything. But, the problem is the overanalyzing has put me in hospital as well. So it's like, we got to come up with a better way to do things. And me as the self, I believe I know the way. But what I'm trying to do in therapy is tell these parts, look, guys, just take a step back. I know you're trying to protect me. You're doing a great job, I might add, because I'm still here. You're guilty. But just take a step back, because I've got this idea. I reckon I can do it this way, which might be easier for all of us. So, just trust me and let me have a go. And it's taking a while for these parts to trust me, probably because I've done some dumb things. And they're like, man, last time we backed off, Elliot, you did this, this, and this. But look, I'm a changed man. I'm a 34-year-old adult now. So I've got to continue to tell my parts, it's all right. I thank you for the job you're doing. I appreciate it. I'm still alive, baby. Thank you so much. But I reckon moving forward, we can do this. Anyway, right. So my cognitive overthinker said, which I've just gone through, which is but said it, the point I want to make is spoke to me internally during therapy. So again, very right brain. But is insistent on analysing every detail is to protect me from danger. So this is how my the cognitive overthinker conceptualized in imagery, in a right brain sort of way, using imagery. This is what it sort of feels worried about. And he said, weird, I know, but just stick with me. He said that he sees a runaway train hurtling towards he and I. And it's this fear and imagery of being cleaned up by this train, boom, that keeps him going. That's the general image, the context that he thinks of. It's like we're on the train tracks and there's this big steam engine full of coal bearing down on us, and he's going to run us over at any minute. And he is trying to protect me from that runaway train. And the runaway train is representing my anxiety. So it's another interesting way in which my anxiety has liked to make itself known. So it's also a runaway train. And what about this, Trains, There's the autism, baby. I love trains. And I said that in therapy. I was like, I love trains, but it's interesting that it's using this train imagery sort of not against me, but to highlight the anxiety that I'm sort of dealing with. It's very interesting, and I'd say it's very autistic as well. So, but in therapy, so there's this train bearing down on us. So what I did was using EMDR therapy. So again, I'm going to do an episode on that, but which is very right brain. I had to picture myself at this train station with this inner part, the cognitive overthinker, and I had to imagine that this train was hurtling through, but instead of standing on the tracks together and getting absolutely poleaxed by this steam train, what we did was I grabbed his hand, which I didn't feel comfortable with necessarily because I don't like people touching me or me touching people. Again, probably an autistic thing, but in this moment it felt right. So I grabbed his hand and said, right, come on, trust me. This is the self talking. This is me, Elliot, talking to my inner part. I said, trust me on this one. Stand with me. Let's watch this train go through. We'll get off the train tracks because that's just asking for trouble. But I reckon we can stand on the platform, and this train of anxiety, it'll just keep going. It'll just keep going and it won't clean us up. Just trust me on this one. And it took a lot for this cognitive overthinking part to do just that. But eventually with some yanking, I was able to pull him across and stand on the side behind the yellow line of the platform. Mind the gap. Anyway, sorry, it's my train autism. It's coming over me. Anyway, I'm not in the London Underground, so I don't have to mind the gap. But I was behind the yellow line with this part, and we imagined while we're standing at this train station that this train hurtling through kept going. It didn't hit us at all. It just kept going. It was heading north, probably to Brisbane. So my imagery around this was that clear that this was a northbound coal train. Now, I don't know if it'd be heading to Brisbane, really be going out west to Narrabri or Gunnedah or... Anyway, you guys aren't interested in that. It doesn't matter. But this was a northbound train. So what was interesting, as I've alluded to, this train was a steam engine. So it's an old school train, And this is what I think's interesting, is that the train is all in black. It's carrying black coal, which, funnily enough, is going the wrong way because it should be going to Newcastle south from where I was standing to the port. Anyway, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, Elliot. It doesn't matter. But what is interesting is that the train was all black carriages, and it was a big steam engine that had lots and lots of black smoke coming out. There were plumes of it everywhere. And as it went past, as it went hurtling by, it felt really hot, like almost like singe your head, my beard off sort of hot. And it was a train that was just full of anxiety, just full of it. Generalized anxiety, social anxiety, OCD, whatever, you name it, panic disorder. It was all in there. It was all smushed in with the coal, and everything was dark and black and dirty and sooty and hot and sweaty. So there you go. So as it went by, though, I was able to watch with my inner part, watch this train hurtle on through the platform going north, and we were able to say, righto, that moment has passed. It's all good. And then what's interesting, this idea of train still kept going. That wasn't it. Then going southbound, probably to Newcastle or Sydney, a shiny silver train, which was a passenger train, came past the train station, didn't stop as well, and was on the other side of the tracks because it's going southbound. And this train brought nothing but happiness and glee to this very proud autistic man and his inner part, the cognitive overthinker. We had a great time. It was great. The cognitive overthinker isn't used to sort of enjoying moments, so at my behest, it was able to enjoy the moment as well. But this beautiful, it was a Tangara train. If anyone wants to search, what train I was thinking of, it was a Tangara, okay? So part of New South Wales Train Link Network. So this Tangara was going southbound, as I said, probably to Newcastle or to Sydney. And it was great. I was jumping up and down. Autistic Elliot was just come out, which was a bit of a surprise. I didn't see, this is so abstract. I didn't see that this other train was going to come along and it was going to tap into my real, I guess, childish, but really innocent sort of, love of trains. It was that in itself. I don't really know what that was about, but that was interesting. And I was standing there holding the hand of my overthinking cognitive man subpart, who was holding my hand very, very tightly at this point. But we were able to enjoy the moment together, and it was beautiful. It was beautiful. Geez, this is abstract, isn't it? This is so right brain, but it's so cool because this is the stuff that actually works on people like me. So CBT, basic stuff compared to this. This is next level. So I thought it was very interesting that the two trains, this passenger train wasn't a steam engine. It was a Tangaras aren't really new anymore, but when they come out, they were the new U-Butte thing, fully electric, pretty cool. I just thought it was interesting that these two trains came through and contrasted and represented such different mental phenomena for me. The old steam engine driven by anxiety and, I don't know, the flashy Tangara passenger train driven perhaps by my autism. But hey, it's a lovely fixation to have. It's a real, I don't know why people with autism seem to love trains so much. I'm going to get to the bottom of it one day. But it's so, what is it? It's such a pure, uncorrupted love affair, I feel like, that we have with trains. There's no negative thing about it all. It's a bit weird, but who cares? We're having a great time, flapping around, clapping and everything. It's really just innocent. And it was nice in therapy to have that moment with this cognitive overthinker who does not have moments like that very often. So the old steam engine coming through at 1,000,000 miles an hour, I thought it was going to leave the tracks and hit us, but funnily enough, it didn't. It just kept going, driven by all these anxiety disorders. But then there's the flashy passenger train, the Tangara, driven by my innocent autism. So there we go. Now that was pretty big. That was, that took most of the session to sort of get out, flesh out. But I was on a roll at this point. I don't know if you can tell, I'm on a roll speaking now too. We're about to hit half an hour, but look, there's a lot to say about this episode. There's a lot to say about this session in therapy. But what happened was towards the end of the session, I started veering off into other territory that needs to be looked at in full another time. So, the end of the session 5 minutes ago isn't usually the time to then bring up death anxiety, but it's going to have to come up soon because I am thinking still about death constantly and it needs addressing, at least to dial it down a little bit. So that's going to have to come out soon. But it's hard. I don't want to jump around too much. There's got to be, as much as possible, there'll never be a linear path towards positive mental health. There is no linear path. It just doesn't happen. But, my therapy, I want it to track as linear as possible because I get sidetracked so easily. I don't want it going off in different directions. I want to try and keep it, on the one track, heading northbound to Brisbane or something, or heading southbound to Newcastle, whatever. But I don't want to deviate too much in therapy because there is a lot that I need to go through. My therapist even said today, she's like, Elliot, you and I are going to know each other for many years to come. And I chuckled, which is good that she's committed to, trying to straighten me out. It's also a bit sad that it's going to take years to do that. But hey, whatever, I sort of knew that. We knew that, didn't we? We knew it was going to be a lot of work. But it's really good because we are locked in, I'm going when money allows it. I'm going weekly. It's following mostly a linear path, but we're really uncovering some pretty interesting stuff. So yeah, it was good. But yes, death anxiety at the end probably isn't the thing to bring up. So we ended on a happier note. And I left saying that I was going to go to a train station and watch trains for the rest of the day, which I didn't do. I actually went running and went to the gym and did some other things that were good. But tomorrow, I think I'm going to go to the train station. I'm going to go to Broadmeadow train station for those that live locally here in Newcastle. The reason is because freight trains, there won't be many steam trains going through anymore. That was decades ago. But there's still cold trains, full of black smoke going everywhere, all that sort of stuff that will be going through Broadmeadow train station tomorrow, as well as flashy passenger trains too. So I want to get there and just sort of be like, all right, cognitive overthinker, here we are in the real world. Here comes one of those scary cold trains, but look, it's staying on its path. It's not worried with us. It's just doing its thing. And look, there's an awesome passenger train. How cool is that? Let's jump on and go to Sydney or something. So I think I'm going to do that tomorrow as an extension of this therapy session. But it was a big one today. It was a big one. And, I don't know. To me, I don't know if you guys that have done internal family systems therapy before will understand this. And I think a lot of people understand that there's different parts to our psyche that are pushing different things, different agendas. But internal family systems therapy, along with the EMDR, very much conceptualize it as specific parts, not specific identities. This isn't dissociative identity disorder or multiple personalities. It's not that. It's sub-personalities. So it's still me, the self, that's calling the shots. But there's all this input from these other parts of my psychological makeup that are just trying to protect me, like I said. And today's therapy session, the first one back in 3 weeks, it was a big one. It got very imaginative there, but hey, that's where the gains are for me. I need to be standing there holding hands with my parts, singing Kumbaya, and everyone's happy, and we're all singing in unison, and that's what I need to get eventually at the dinner table. All my parts, we need to sit down for dinner, we need to hold hands, we need to meditate together, and then we just need to be like, so how are we doing in life? We're going all right, don't you reckon? Because again, very quickly, these parts are not bad, they're not negative, they're not trying to hurt me or anything. They're trying to protect me the best way they can. So moving forward, if I do, or if I am able to just sort of do what I think is right, what the self believes is right, these parts will be coming along the journey with me, and I want them to come with me. And I want them there because if things do go haywire, hey guys, can you jump in and give us a hand here? The workaholic might say, look, man, we need to do more. We're not doing enough at work. We need more money or whatever. The input from these parts isn't always negative, but it's just that they get out of balance and they have a bit too much influence over my thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and cognitions. And what I need to do is dial down a lot of those cognitions and really go into the right brain world and see these parts. And there's more parts will probably come out. So this week, the Cognitive Overthinker, that's a new part, but there'll be more, I'd say. Haven't even got the relationships yet, so fair dinkum, wait till that kicks off. Holy dooly. But anyway, so yes, these parts need to come on the journey with me because they're me buddies, They've been looking out for me. I'm so thankful that they have. I'm still here. How good's that? But, let's maybe try this different way where we don't have to stand on the tracks and get absolutely pulverized by the steam train, the cold train of anxiety. So there you go. So anyway, that's it. That was a big one, but I think it needed to be a big one because I need to try and explain this phenomena, I think, as clearly as possible. And hopefully over the last few therapy not interviews, therapy reflections that I've done on the potty, I'm hoping that you're getting a bit of an idea of what these sorts of therapies are doing and why they're different to, say, CBT or even dialectical behaviour therapy. Very, very different, but for someone like me, very, very important, and this is where the gains are going to be made. All right, thank you everybody for listening. I do appreciate it. If you're enjoying the show, feel free to like, subscribe, give the show a great rating for the algorithm. 5 stars would be pretty cool. I'm almost at 100 5-star ratings, so if you could help me get to 100, that'd be awesome. Surely then the algorithm will kick in and the potty will be at the top of every bloody chart show and everything on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. But anyway, so yes, 5-star rating if you could. And you can follow, you can share it around with your mates as well if you think they're going to get something out of it. But you can also follow me on Instagram. You can contact me on Instagram as well. And to do that, follow the Insta handle at elliot.t.waters. All right, that's enough yapping. The Vive answers really pushed this episode along, but it did well. It's done well during therapy. It did pretty well during this episode, so that's good. So I'm signing off. I've got to have a lay down, but I will talk to you soon. I'll see you soon here for the next installment of the Dysregulated Podcast.